Guys, so I wanted to go through this lesson about how to structure your comparison essays for the Poetry Timed Right, so that next class when we come in, we can just get started right away on practicing our writing, and you can already know some of the comparison structures that you could use for your essays. So first, I just wanted to use this graphic to really emphasize that you need to make sure you explore the how and the what. That is happening in both poems. So the how would include really focusing on how both poems have a specific tone, they use a certain language, they present their ideas through this type of structure. But then the what is really emphasizing their ideas. So both poets portray something about love, both poets reveal something about decay. So you want to have that balance of the how and the what for when you're exploring both poems and comparing them. So let's take a look at the first structure that you could use in your comparison. It is the block approach. And this is the most simple basic structure that you could use. But the idea is that you are discussing one poem at a time, idea by idea, in complete detail before moving on to the next poem. So you should try to select the common ideas or topics when you're using this structure. In the end is when you would actually show that direct comparison. So when you might use this structure is if you don't see many similarities between the attitudes, the perspectives, the themes. Maybe you want to explore a similar topic between the two, but both poets have completely different perspectives, completely different methods of displaying their ideas. Or this option is good if you only have a solid interpretation of one poem. So you could really shine by analyzing one poem in depth, and then the other one that you don't really understand, you could present a minimal analysis of it. That's at least going to get you into that 5 range on the timed right rubric. So let's look at this example. The first paragraph would really explore poem A, how it presents one idea using literary elements. So my claim is that Keats presents fears of not having a lasting reputation before passing away through his use of harvest imagery. So we have the how, but then we also have the what of the reputation as the topic. The second paragraph then shows the ending ideas of that poem. So he resolves with a confident attitude, that's our how, in the face of death, as he shows this idea of what is lasting and what is temporal. So that is my what, my main idea of that poem. Then I transition into the next poet. So Longfellow also presents his idea on building a legacy. So you see there's a common topic between paragraph 1 and 3, but really there's a different perspective in the two poems. Then the last paragraph concludes with Longfellow's idea about what he realizes in the face of death, which is completely different than Keats. So that's why the block approach might work, because they have different ideas, they use different methods to get there. But in the end, the limitations of this structure is that it's disjointed and there's no direct comparison of the how or the what until you get to the very final conclusion. So this is an option, but it's not the best option. Let's look at a couple of others. So the alternating block approach is going to give you more of the direct comparison in a way, but one paragraph explores poem A, second paragraph goes to poem B, then you go back to poem A, then back to poem B. So in this approach, you are discussing ideas of one poem before moving on to similarities in the other. And then you could switch to really focus on the differences between the two poems. So the benefits of this one is that you're emphasizing one big similarity and one big difference in the ideas. And the limitation is that there's no direct comparison of the how, the literary elements. So this option is good if you don't see common literary elements between the two. And again, if you only have a solid interpretation of one poem and you really want to spend more time on that one. So in this example, let's take a look. I use the Shelley and the Byron examples. So Shelley, he uses idealistic imagery to show his affection. Byron uses an epic simile to show his affection. So the ideas are similar, but the methods are different, and that's why I chose to block them and then alternate. In the second half of the essay, I'd focus on how Shelley argues that physical intimacy is required to show love, with rhetorical questions in a persuasive tone. So in this one, we see a different how, because in the other one, Byron praises the internal character, so I'd focus more on the descriptions and not necessarily these rhetorical devices. But in the end, we have completely different perspectives that he shows a different perspective of love. All right, let's talk about the point-by-point approach. This is a really good approach to start showing some of the direct comparisons. And the benefit is that you're giving direct comparisons all the way throughout because you're exploring both poets in every paragraph. And you are either expressing a similarity or a difference between one idea or literary element at a time. So this one is exploring the how or the what, but in every single paragraph with both poets. So this example uses the first claim emphasizing the similarity in the literary element, the imagery of nature. The next paragraph, I might focus on how they develop persuasive tone versus a laudatory tone. So again, a difference in the literary element specifically. And then the last paragraph, I might emphasize the difference between their perspectives on love. One emphasizes the actions required to show love versus Byron shows the internal qualities of love. So in this one, it gives you some freedom to alternate your focus on the how or the what, and it gives you some freedom to discuss similarities or differences all the way throughout. And you might use this one when you have very well-defined similarities and differences in the literary elements, or you have a solid interpretation and confident in either the methods or the ideas. Maybe if you have a clear understanding of the main ideas, you could use this one, and maybe you're lacking in the literary elements or the methods of how they show that, but still you're going to do direct comparison. So in the point-by-point approach, you're deciding what your similarities or differences will focus on, the how or the what. But the limitation is that you're not showing the how and the what all the way throughout your essay. So that is one kind of drawback between this one and the last one I'm going to show you. So the point-by-point approach is a good approach. It's more sophisticated because you're doing that direct comparison, but you're only showing one how or the what. Okay, lastly, we have the connected difference approach. This is the most sophisticated, and I would also say probably the most difficult level of structure to get to. But if you can do this, you are showing that direct comparison of the literary element and the idea all the way throughout your essay. Sometimes it could be tricky to find the three connected differences like we've been talking about in class. And one limitation is that if there's a pure similarity between the two, like they are matching on the same idea and the same literary element throughout, then this could cause you to avoid that. But you could do a hybrid always. And then it could also cause you to maybe leave out a critical interpretation if you're only focusing on the ways that they connect. So I would encourage you to use the connected difference approach if you have a solid interpretation of both poets' use of literary elements and main ideas. Let's look at this example. It's very similar to the one I shared with you in class. So in the first body paragraph, I'm exploring how there's a similar idea of nature as perfect, but they use different methods. In the second claim, I'm exploring how they have that similar idea again, but they use that different tone. So they both use that literary element, but they use it differently. In the third body paragraph, I'm going to focus on the similar use of shifts in the two poems and how they, in the end, show different perspectives of relationships. One as relationships as advantageous, one as love is very pure and innocent. So in this connected difference approach, you're giving a thorough interpretation of both poets' use of literary elements and what ideas they explore, and you're going back and forth and giving that direct comparison in every single paragraph. So this one is more sophisticated and probably difficult to get to, but I would encourage you to try to do this, or you could even do a hybrid of the connected difference approach and the point by point approach if you want to explore one pure similarity like this and then go into what are some of the connected differences. So you have a lot of options for how you want to structure your essay, and I would encourage you use the one that fits best with your interpretations of the poems and what you're able to pull out.